Hi, my name is Christy Thomas, and I am here for another Lunch and Learn. This is number 2 for the 2023-2024 school year. These are going to happen once a month on either the 3rd or the 4th Monday of the month around noon Eastern Standard Time. So welcome, and I am so glad you're here. And if you're catching the replay, thank you for taking time out of your schedule and scheduling this in to catch the replay. Today, we're going to continue our series on empathy. Last month, we talked about the foundations of empathy and what we need to do to enable our kids to be able to learn the skills of empathy. Because just like reading and writing and math, empathy is an actual skill we have to break down and teach our kids. We need to stop thinking that it's just something parents give our kids through osmosis. It's actually something we have to be intentional about. And the more that we're exposing our kids to technology and media and to people outside of our circle, it's extra important for you as the parent to be aware of what practices you can put into place so you can help your kids have more empathy. Empathy is a huge superpower. This talk and most of the Lunch and Learns will be inspired by Dr. Michele Borba. Right now, we're going through the book UnSelfie, and we're going to be talking about part 2 of the book. But to recap from last time, why do we need to talk about empathy? Well, one, there's been a giant decline of empathy, 40% lower than previous years. In the last 3 decades, self-reported empathy has gone down by 40%. That's huge. If we continue down this path, right, we are going to be people who care more about ourselves than care about each other. And as a mom, that terrifies me because I know that we need each other. We need community. We are mammals that are wired for community. So as empathy declines, bullying and aggression increases. So there's a correlation there, okay? So empathy goes down, bullying goes up. And then there's an increase in all these other moral concerns, right? Risky behaviors, cheating. We're losing a moral rudder, and empathy is a key part of that moral rudder because it makes you consider more than just yourself. We don't want kids that only think about themselves. We don't want governments that only think about themselves. We want to be able to think about each other. Okay, so that is the why behind why these Lunch and Learns at the beginning of the school year here are focusing on empathy. I think it's a critical piece. And you really can tell your kids that you will be kind. This is our family value. This is something that we know you can do, and we're going to help you, and we're going to model how to be kind. Because I believe children come to Earth already fully amazing, and we get to watch them as parents and teachers and community members grow into who they are. They are not born as blank slates, but they do have some skills that we need to teach them, and empathy is one of them. Here's what we need to practice empathy effectively. There are 3 skills we need. The first is self-regulation. Okay, self-regulation is just being able to label your emotions and reactions and feelings, okay? If you can label your own, then you may have the bandwidth and capacity to help others. But if you can't notice your own feelings and reactions and well-being, then you will not be able to help others. Okay, you have to have self-regulation in order to recognize yours so you can recognize other people's. The second thing that we need for empathy is kindness. And kindness is contagious. Kindness is a muscle. Kindness is that concern about other people's feelings and well-being. So it ties into self-regulation, right? First, we have to be able to notice our own, and then kindness gives us the ability to take action on other people's feelings and well-being. And the third is collaboration. Can we work together? Can I see your ideas and listen to them? Can we come together on a project? Collaboration leads to empathy. Okay, so those are the three main things, and we're going to backtrack here to go talk about self-regulation. Self-regulation is a huge piece of the puzzle. In fact, I've got books here. I'm a giant reader, which is why we're doing these lunch and learns, because there are so many books on the parenting bookshelf, at the library, in the bookstore, so many podcasts like mine, Keep Calm Mother On. And it's easy to get overwhelmed and off course with some books that may actually not be worth your time. So the ones I'm going to tell you are ones that I like and I feel are tried and true resources. So there's a whole book called SelfReg by Stuart Shanker. And if you want to know about how to regulate yourself, this one is an amazing one. Okay, it's going to go through sensory needs and the hidden stresses in your day so you can maybe pull those out of your children's day to be able to label them. SelfReg is a great book. The other book that I found recently that I think is like a great refresher, super quick, if you don't want to read a big book like that, is this book called The 15-Minute Focus about regulation and co-regulation. Because here's the thing. Here's what we know about brains. They don't finish aging and growing until they're not formed until our early 20s now. And so if you want to be able to help your kid regulate themselves, first, you have to be able to regulate. And then for a long time, much longer than you expect, into those early 20s, and actually our whole life, but really primary need here in the childhood to early 20s while your brain is growing is we have to be able to offer co-regulation to our kids. Our brains all develop in different speeds and have different needs, right? If you're somewhere on a neurodiversity, neurospicy spectrum, these skills might take longer and may take more intentional practice. But co-regulation is the gift that we can give our kids once we are confident that we can self-regulate. Once we are confident that we can manage our own emotions and personal distress, then we can help our kids. And then that co-regulation piece, our kids will learn how to be self-regulators. It is not something they are born with. The ability to self-soothe is this industrial nation myth because we want independent kids. If you want to learn more about that, you can read The Nurture Revolution. But today, what I want to talk to you about is how to regulate yourself and so you can help co-regulate your kids. So if they're having a hard day getting out the door to school, or if they're having a hard moment because of a sibling conversation that malfunctioned, or just bedtime because they're stressed out by all their running to-do lists as they're getting older, co-regulation is the gift you can offer them. Okay? And the goal we need with co-regulation and regulation is to be able to label our own emotions. We talked a little bit about this last month, but once again, if you can expand your feeling vocabulary, if you can practice it on a regular basis, if you can point out to people, to your kids and say, I wonder how they're feeling. Let's practice labeling feelings and speaking feeling words out loud. That will help you. Okay? These are skills we can learn. So if you didn't grow up in a house with a lot of feeling words, and it was just always you were happy, mad, or sad, then I can't wait for you to see the full palette of words that you have available to you. Okay. Learn, when are you frustrated? When are you agitated? When are you just lethargic? What feeling words can you have? Okay. And when you are able to label a feeling word, then let's rate the feeling from 1 to 10. 1 is like just kind of there. I can label it, name it, but it's not intense. And 10 is like volcano intensity, natural disaster intensity of feeling. Okay. So you can label the intensity of your feelings. Next, and I think the most important skill I can offer you, and while I keep talking about mindfulness and all my social media channels, is the ability to notice your breath. That regulation, if we can pause with our breath to then notice our feeling, we're able to model that and offer co-regulation for our kids. So what are some things that you can do to breathe? Well, I brought a little stuffed animal here. One of the easiest breathing techniques you can do with a kid every night at bedtime is just put that little stuffed animal on their belly and practice deep belly breaths and then wide breaths. I like to imagine when I'm laying down breathing that I'm blowing up an inner tube of air around my belly. So I'm trying to go thick and then wide with my breath to get all the bottom parts of my lungs. And I can see my stuffed animal going up and down. Okay, another breathing technique is just moving your hands with it. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Or maybe circles are more your thing. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Or the really famous one of block breathing. Ready? Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Your breath is with you, but so often we're not noticing our bodies and holding our breath all day long. And when you hold your breath, maybe you're also clenching your jaw or making fists. Your shoulders are tight. Maybe your shoulders are earrings, whatever it is. Let's check in with ourselves more. So then when our kids are having big feelings, we have the capacity to notice theirs and help them check in. And when my kids are trying breathing strategies, I like to model it with them. And maybe if they're willing to like move their hand with me, we can mirror the motions. Just offer that. And once you're noticing, you're holding your breath and practicing noticing feelings, you'll also notice that you have some tells. And I told you some. For me, it's clenching my jaws, my shoulders being earrings. What are your stress cues that you can notice once you're getting used to checking in with yourself? I bet if you close your eyes here and think of one of your children, if you have more than one, if you have one, just think of them, or your spouse, someone you know really well. And you can probably, if you imagine that they're stressed out, like make a picture of them stressed out in your brain. And can you find like 3 different ways that their body language is telling you that they're stressed, those stress cues? They might not know they're happening. I know that my kids are really good at picking up my stress cues before I notice. Like they'll say, your face is doing that thing, Mom. And I'm like, oh, you're right. There is more going on here than I expected. So use those stress cues to help you. A big stress cue that you can use is actually your pulse. You can notice, you can slow down and notice, is my heart racing right now? Is my body having a reaction? You can notice if you're holding your breath. Are you breathing, hyperventilating? Okay. And when we notice these things, then we can build times to breathe, but we can also build in practices like a calm down corner. And we can get some visual timers to notice our breaths, or we can just sit and listen for 3 quiet noises, or we can draw and doodle just through the process of it. Okay. The next one I want to know is, once you start noticing your stress cues, is give your kids permission to help you be a helper, help you find calm faster. So one of my favorite people on the internet is the Orange Rhino. And the Orange Rhino gave her kids permission to say the word Orange Rhino when they noticed she was yelling. But also, you could use the word Orange Rhino or green giraffe or whatever it is for your family. I love the Orange Rhino. To be a cue that you need to go check in with yourself. Kirk Martin likes to use the word chips and salsa, like, hey, let's regroup and go have some chips and salsa and check in. Let's pause for a second here. But we can find helpers so that we, as adults, can practice regulation. And then our kids can notice what that looks like, because they're going to borrow our regulation skills. They will build into self-regulation, but for a long time, much longer than you think. They need to borrow yours. Okay, so self-regulation is a big part of being able to have empathy, because if you can notice your feelings, then you can notice the feelings of others. And we're all works of process here. The second thing of practicing empathy is kindness. Okay, we want to increase our child's ability to notice other people's feelings and well-being, and then take action. Kindness is actually a muscle. If you do enough workouts, little by little, your kindness muscle will grow. This is a soft skill. It is not necessarily born within us. It is something we have to do. Kindness is a verb, and you can decide the type of person you want to be and internalize the fact that I am a kind person. In fact, I try to tell my kids every day that, you're a Thomas, you're a helper, you are kind. It doesn't mean that you light yourself on fire to keep other people warm, but you are kind. Okay. We want to be careful when we ask our kids for help. So there's been enough studies that we know that if we just say, will you help me, that there is less compliance with that task. But if we give our kids the ability to label themselves as helpers, like you're a helper, come be a helper, then they do it. So we want to be able to label ourselves in a positive way with the ability to be kind. Mr. Rogers always said to look for the helpers, and this is your ability to do this as a family. So how can you look for helpers? How can you build more kindness into your days? Well, you can catch them being kind and label it. Be very specific with your praise and feedback and label the kindness. 2, you can have a weekly family kindness day. Like every Wednesday, you're going to say, okay, don't forget, today is Wednesday, it's kindness day. I want to hear about 3 acts of kindness you did at dinner tonight. Of course, if you want to spread it out, that's great. But there has been effects studied that if you just make one kindness focus day a week, that can make an impact. That is part of that kindness muscle workout, okay? The other kindness activity that I love, and we haven't done it often enough here, we got to do it again, is being sneaky kindness ninjas. So I grew up in a time period where people totally did the knock on the door and then run away, or knock on the door and toilet paper. Yeah, we don't want our kids to do that, but we can be kindness ninjas together. So I love to surprise neighbors and friends with kind activities, surprises on the front porch, and we sneak up there all, sometimes at dusk, sometimes early morning, and we leave a surprise of kindness for that other family. So be kindness ninjas together. Sometimes we're kindness ninjas in a parking lot, and then we gather all the shopping carts around us and put it in the corral. So whatever it is, work on noticing feelings and well-being and doing something together about it. In fact, maybe your kid is really into animals, and maybe you pick the cause of doing animal work together, or helping at the food bank and knowing that every time you go grocery shopping with your kid, they're going to help you remember to get an extra jar of peanut butter or oatmeal for the food bank. Okay, so that's 2. Regulation. We have to learn how to regulate ourselves so we have the capacity to notice feelings in others. 2 is the verb of doing. Kindness is the verb of increasing our concern about others' feelings and well-being, and an action that we can take. And 3 is collaboration, is working with others that aren't just like ourselves, so we can remember that we're a we as humanity. We want our kids, our families, the people in our lives to work well together. And the more kids work together, if it's just once a week in a group project setting, then they get better in that once a week exposure than if they never work together at all. So think of ways that you can do family projects together. Think of ways of how you can volunteer together. What is an act of service your family can do together? The more you work together, the more that you think about empathy and how these other people are feeling. We want to make sure that we're not just focused on them and us, like me, and we want to move to we here, okay? We want to have shared emotional experience together. So if we're always stuck in competition mode, we want to make sure that we can work on a problem together to solve. Family meetings help here. We want to praise camaraderie and not just the wins. And my other favorite way to do this is to make sure that we're talking to people that we don't know well. And so you can ask your kids, so we've got the daily, once a week kindness day. And then the next one is you can have a fact day where you try to encourage your kids to go out of the way to learn one thing about a person. A favorite activity, F. Something favorite, or F, so favorite movie, favorite color, favorite band, or talk about an activity that other person does, like do they love soccer, violin, art, baking, musicals. C, like do you have some shared contacts, like how do you know each other? And T, what, like their talents, their special gifts. What do they like most about themselves? So once a week, you can focus on having a sneaky kindness day. And another day, just once a week, you can ask your kids to reach out and get to know the people around them. And it's scary. There is a social investment there. When was the last time you struck up a conversation with a stranger at like the grocery store or walking down the street? It takes courage and bravery to do that and reinforce that to your kids. We're not asking for best friends here, but we're asking to remember that the people around us are actually people. Okay, I am so glad you're here. You have always been exactly the right parent for your kids. So I want to take a moment here and use a deep breath. Put your hand on your shoulder if you want to. We can self-regulate with this called pat the baby. I'm sure you did this with tiny babies. And go shh. And just join me for a couple deep breaths here. Shh. And imagine which one you need to work on a little bit more. Pick one of those 3 skills. Let it bubble up. Regulation, kindness, or collaboration. And set one tiny, tiny, tiny goal for yourself in the next 7 days. Are you going to talk to a stranger? Are you going to practice breathing? Are you going to work on noticing your feelings? Okay. I'm so glad you're here on Earth. We can work on bringing empathy back. Let's start that empathy revolution. One parent, one kid at a time. All it takes is one caring adult in your kid's life to make a big difference. And since you're watching this, I bet that person is you for your kid. But you might be that person for other people's kids too, and you might not know it. So check in with yourself. Remember, this moment matters. Pick up the book UnSelfie or Thrivers by Dr. Michele Borba. And I'm so glad you're here. Please share this Lunch and Learn with other people. Post it on social media. Share the YouTube link. Email me if you want the notes that I made for this. And I will hopefully hear from you soon. I'm so glad we're on Earth together. Bye, everyone. Let's keep calm and mother on.